Level 1 Anonymous Hackers.
The hacking group Anonymous is threatening Donald Trump over his proposal to ban Muslims.
No leader, no headquarters, no official membership, just a mask. Anonymous emerged from the chaotic internet culture of the 2000s and became a loose collective of online activists and hackers. Instead of operating like a traditional organization, almost anyone could claim to act under the anonymous name. Their symbol became the famous Guy Fawkes mask, while their slogan, "We are anonymous, we are legion," helped create an image of an invisible army online. Anonymous targeted governments, corporations, and organizations they accused of censorship, corruption, or abuse. Over time, many people claiming to represent the collective appeared, disappeared, or were arrested. Dead internet theory. What if most of the internet you're using isn't actually being created by humans? That's the idea behind the dead internet theory, a controversial conspiracy theory claiming that a huge portion of online content is generated by bots, AI, and automated accounts rather than real people. The theory became popular in the late 2010s and early 2020s as users noticed strange similarities between posts, repetitive comments, fake engagement, and increasingly automated content. According to its more extreme versions, the internet effectively died years ago, and what remains is an artificial version filled with bots interacting with other bots. There's no solid evidence that the entire internet is fake. But with AI-generated content, recommendation algorithms, bot accounts, and automated spam becoming increasingly common, parts of the theory can feel surprisingly believable. The wow signal. 1977, astronomer Jerry Ullman was analyzing data from the Big Ear radio telescope when he spotted something extremely unusual. A powerful radio signal had appeared from deep space, and it lasted just 72 seconds. Ullman was so shocked by the reading that he wrote, "Wow," on the printout. That reaction eventually gave the mysterious signal its famous name. The signal appeared to come from the direction of Sagittarius, and its unusual strength and narrow frequency made it especially interesting to astronomers searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. But there was one huge problem. It never happened again. Scientists have searched for another signal from the same region, but no confirmed repeat has ever been detected. Was it an alien transmission? A rare natural phenomenon? Or simply an unusual signal from a source we still don't understand? Level 2. Jack the Ripper. London, 1888. No CCTV, no DNA testing, no smartphones, just dark streets, gas lamps, and a killer nobody could identify. A series of murders shocked Whitechapel, one of London's poorest districts. Newspapers quickly gave the unknown killer a terrifying nickname, Jack the Ripper. Police investigated hundreds of suspects, but nothing led to a confirmed identity. Then came letters supposedly written by the killer, making the case even more chaotic. The murders became a media obsession, with newspapers spreading theories faster than investigators could verify them. 5 victims are traditionally known as the Canonical Five: Marianne Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. But here's the crazy part: more than a century later, historians still argue about who Jack the Ripper actually was. Dark web. You use the internet every day: Google, Instagram, YouTube. But what if I told you that what you see is only a tiny part of the internet? Welcome to the dark web. It's a hidden part of the internet that isn't normally indexed by search engines. People can use special software to access it, with a major focus on anonymity. And that anonymity has a dark side. The dark web has been used for illegal marketplaces, stolen data, scams, and other crimes. But it's not automatically illegal. Journalists, researchers, and people living under censorship can also use anonymity tools for legitimate reasons. Law enforcement agencies have shut down major illegal marketplaces, proving that being anonymous online doesn't mean being untouchable. So the dark web isn't some secret alternate internet filled with mysterious hackers. It's something more complicated. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 at 12:41 a.m. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 left Kuala Lumpur. Destination Beijing. 239 people were on board. Everything seemed normal. Then, about 40 minutes into the flight, the plane vanished from civilian radar. No emergency call, no confirmed distress signal. Just gone. But MH370 didn't simply disappear. Military radar suggested the aircraft had turned around and traveled west, completely away from its planned route. Then satellites picked up strange signals from the aircraft. Investigators realized that they weren't looking for a plane near its original destination anymore. They were looking across the Indian Ocean. And that's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Search teams covered millions of square kilometers of ocean. Ships searched the seabed. Aircraft scanned the water. Years passed. Pieces of suspected debris eventually appeared on islands and coastlines across the Indian Ocean, but the main wreckage? Still missing. And without it, one question remains impossible to answer with certainty. What actually happened inside MH370? A decade later, Flight 370 isn't just a missing aircraft. It's one of the greatest unresolved mysteries in modern aviation. Level 3, Area 51. There's a place in Nevada where you can legally stand outside the gate, but if you try going inside, good luck. Welcome to Area 51. For decades, the U.S. government barely acknowledged the place existed. That silence turned a remote military facility into one of the biggest conspiracy magnets on Earth. UFOs? Aliens? Secret aircraft? The internet has theories for basically everything. But the real story is actually pretty fascinating. Area 51 was used to secretly develop and test advanced aircraft, including the U-2 spy plane and later projects connected to stealth technology. And because these aircraft looked completely different from anything ordinary people had seen, strange sightings started piling up. People saw mysterious objects flying at impossible-looking altitudes and speeds, and naturally, the alien theories exploded. Then came the biggest legend. The government has alien technology hidden there. There's no publicly verified evidence proving that claim. But Area 51 remains heavily restricted, and that secrecy keeps the mystery alive. Maybe that's the ultimate trick. The less America says about Area 51, the more the internet imagines. Titanic, April 10th, 1912. The Titanic left Southampton on its first voyage, advertised as one of the greatest ships ever built. It was massive, luxurious, powerful, and many people believed it was practically unsinkable. 4 days later, everything changed. Late on April 14th, the Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. At first, many passengers didn't even realize how serious the situation was. But the ship was taking on water. The crew began launching lifeboats, yet there weren't enough seats for everyone on board. Then came another problem. The closest nearby ship, Carpathia, was still hours away. By the early morning of April 15th, the Titanic disappeared beneath the Atlantic. More than 1,500 people died. But here's what makes the story so haunting. The Titanic wasn't simply destroyed by one mistake. Warnings about ice had been received. The ship was traveling quickly through an area known to contain ice, and the lifeboat capacity was nowhere near enough for everyone. The disaster became a massive wake-up call for maritime safety. New rules followed, including requirements for ships to carry enough lifeboat spaces and maintain continuous radio watches. And today, more than a century later, the Titanic still rests deep beneath the ocean. Black Knight satellite. What if there was an alien satellite orbiting Earth and NASA knew about it? That's the legend of the Black Knight satellite. The story claims that a mysterious dark object has been circling Earth for thousands of years, and that it's actually an alien spacecraft watching humanity. Sounds insane, right? But here's where things get interesting. The legend mixes together several completely different events from space history. In the 1920s, inventor Nikola Tesla detected strange radio signals and wondered if they could be coming from somewhere beyond Earth. Decades later, strange objects were photographed during space missions. Then, in 1998, astronauts aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour photographed a dark object during an ISS construction mission. The internet connected all these events and created the Black Knight story. But NASA identified the 1998 object as space debris, likely thermal insulation that had accidentally drifted away during the mission. And there's still no credible evidence that an ancient alien satellite is orbiting Earth. So, is the Black Knight real? The object photographed in space was real. The alien satellite? That part remains a fascinating conspiracy theory, not established science. Level 4. Bermuda Triangle. A plane disappears, a ship vanishes, and sometimes there's barely anything left to find. This is the Bermuda Triangle, a legendary stretch of the Atlantic between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. For decades, stories claimed that ships and aircraft entering this area simply disappeared. One of the most famous cases was Flight 19. In 1945, 5 U.S. Navy bombers disappeared during a training mission. A rescue aircraft sent to search for them also vanished. That sounds like a horror movie, but here's the plot twist. The Bermuda Triangle probably isn't some supernatural death zone. Researchers point to more ordinary explanations: powerful storms, rough seas, navigation errors, human mistakes, and the area's enormous amount of air and sea traffic. And there's another problem with the legend. There isn't solid evidence that disappearances happen there at an unusual rate compared with other heavily traveled parts of the ocean. So maybe the Bermuda Triangle doesn't actually make things disappear. Maybe the mystery was created by the stories we told about it. And honestly, that might be even more fascinating. D.B. Cooper, November 24th, 1971. A man walked onto a plane in Portland using the name Dan Cooper. He looked completely ordinary. Then, shortly after takeoff, he handed a flight attendant a note. It wasn't a love letter. It was a ransom demand. He claimed he had a bomb. The plane landed in Seattle, where Cooper received $200,000 and 4 parachutes. Then he did something nobody expected. He let the passengers leave. The crew took off again. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Cooper opened the rear stairs of the Boeing 727 and jumped into the night with the money. And then, nothing. He disappeared. No confirmed body, no confirmed parachute, no confirmed sighting. Years of investigation followed. The FBI searched for clues, questioned suspects, and examined evidence. But Cooper's true identity was never proven. Then, in 1980, a young boy found $5,800 of the ransom money buried near the Columbia River. It was confirmed to be part of the Cooper ransom. But instead of solving the mystery, it created another one. Did Cooper survive the jump? Did he escape? Or did he disappear into the wilderness? In 2016, the FBI officially ended its active investigation. Kennedy curse: some families inherit money, some inherit power. The Kennedys seemed to inherit tragedy. For decades, members of the famous American political family were caught in a series of shocking deaths, accidents, and personal tragedies. John F. Kennedy became president in 1961. Just 2 years later, he was assassinated in Dallas. His brother Robert Kennedy was later assassinated while running for president. Then there was JFK's older brother, Joseph Kennedy Jr., who died during a military mission in World War II. And the tragedies didn't stop there. Other Kennedy family members died in accidents, faced serious illnesses, or experienced devastating personal events. Eventually, the pattern became so disturbing that people started calling it the Kennedy curse. But is it actually a curse? There's no scientific evidence of one. The Kennedy family was also unusually large, wealthy, famous, and heavily involved in politics, meaning their lives were constantly under public attention and scrutiny. Level 5. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. The mystery behind the name. For years, Jeffrey Epstein lived a life that looked almost unreal. Private jets, luxury properties, powerful connections, and access to some of the world's most influential people. But behind that image was a criminal investigation involving the sexual exploitation and trafficking of underage girls. In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty in Florida to state charges involving prostitution, including a charge involving a minor, and received a controversial plea deal. Years later, federal prosecutors arrested him again in 2019 on sex trafficking charges. Then, before he could face trial, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. His death was officially ruled a suicide, but the circumstances immediately triggered questions about how such a high-profile prisoner could die while supposedly under constant supervision. His death also fueled countless conspiracy theories involving politicians, celebrities, billionaires, intelligence agencies, and other powerful figures. But here's where the internet often blurs fact and fiction. Knowing Epstein, or appearing in records connected to him, is not by itself proof that someone committed a crime. The real story is already disturbing enough. A wealthy and well-connected man was accused of exploiting vulnerable girls for years, received unusually favorable treatment in an earlier case, and died before his federal trial could take place. And that left the public with one question: what would the full trial have revealed? Cicada 3301. In 2012, an anonymous group called Cicada 3301 posted a strange message online. "We are looking for highly intelligent individuals." Then came the puzzle. Codes, cryptography, hidden messages, and even clues reportedly placed in real-world locations. Thousands tried to solve it. But nobody could definitively prove who created Cicada 3301, or what they actually wanted. Some believed it was a secret recruitment program. Others thought it was an elaborate game or art project. The group returned with puzzles in 2013 and 2014, then largely disappeared. To this day, its true creators and purpose remain unknown. A puzzle designed to find the smartest people on the internet, and somehow, the internet still can't find its creators. Level 6. Zodiac Killer, California, late 1960s. A mysterious killer attacked people and then did something even stranger. He contacted the newspapers. Letters arrived claiming responsibility for the crimes, along with cryptograms challenging authorities and the public to decode them. The writer called himself the Zodiac. Police investigated countless suspects, but no one was conclusively identified. Then came the famous Zodiac 340 cipher. For more than 50 years, it remained unsolved. In 2020, a team of codebreakers finally cracked it, but the message still didn't reveal the killer's identity. And that's what makes this case so frustrating. The Zodiac wanted everyone to know he existed, but never gave investigators enough to definitively prove who he was. Boyd Bushman. In 2014, a retired Lockheed Martin engineer named Boyd Bushman made a strange claim. Shortly before his death, Bushman recorded a video showing what he said were photographs of alien-like beings and UFOs. He claimed some of the beings were connected to a secret government program at Area 51. The internet went crazy. Was a former aerospace engineer finally exposing something the government had hidden for decades? But then came the problem. After the video spread, researchers and former colleagues questioned the authenticity of Bushman's claims. The supposed alien images were later identified by experts as likely dolls or manufactured figures, not extraterrestrial beings. Sad Satan. It started with a strange video on YouTube. A mysterious game called Sad Satan supposedly came from the dark web. No developer, no official website, just a disturbing game that looked nothing like a normal horror title. The original uploader claimed they discovered it through a hidden link. Soon, the internet started spreading stories about secret messages, disturbing imagery, and hidden files inside the game. But then the mystery got even stranger. Copies of the game appeared online, and people began questioning whether the original version was ever real, or whether the entire story had been created as an elaborate internet hoax. Level 7. Blue Whale Game. Around 2016, a disturbing story began spreading across social media. It was called the Blue Whale Challenge. The internet claimed that a secret online game gave young people increasingly dangerous tasks, eventually leading to self-harm and death. The story spread incredibly fast. News reports, social media posts, and viral videos turned it into a global panic. But here's the twist. A lot of the claims surrounding Blue Whale were never reliably verified. Some incidents were linked to the supposed challenge without solid evidence, while others appeared to have completely different explanations. That doesn't mean online manipulation isn't real. Predatory people can absolutely use fear, pressure, and fake identities to manipulate young users. But the idea of one mysterious game controlling thousands of people was heavily amplified by the internet.